directed at Ron.
It
Don't
was.
look at
I
me.
did. It was for Ron. 'cause
Okay.
I'm the only one looking.
I know. That's good. Well, welcome, everybody.
Affected my...
Nice to see a full house. We got lots of neat things tonight and a bunch of delegations, so
Right now.
we'll get started with... by the way, I will say this at the beginning. We have a conflict of interest. Councillor Dirksen has declared one on 10E, delegation Joan Burnett. Basically, her husband and son works for the town doing winter control, so there's concerns there. Sorry.
Her husband.
You're Mrs. Burnett? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's on your delegation that she has to declare conflict. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Joe. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Anderson. The previous minutes of the February 4th, 2020 regular council meeting and January 21st, 2020 closed session are approved. All in favor? Okay. Additional items? David, you have one?
I might have this one.
You might have one. He's going to think about it. Okay. Anybody else? Mark? I've got one. Or two. Whatever. Okay, good. Moved by Councillor Gunston, second by Councillor Dirksen. The Town of Minto Council convenes into Committee of Adjustments. All in favor? Carried. Okay. That's our minor variance. So this is Committee of Adjustments is for minor variance MV 2020-01 Metzger, 548 Derby Street, Palmerston. I will call the public meeting to order and publicly state any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. The public hearing is to consider a minor variance application file number MV 2020 on 01 Jeremy Metzger. I will call on the Secretary-Treasurer to state the following.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The subject property is legally described as part of Lot 7, north of Prospect Street, subdivision plan of park lots 12 to 14, municipally known as 548 Derby Street, Palmerston, in the town of Minto. The subject land is approximately 0.02 hectare or 0.05 acres in size. The purpose and effect of the application is to provide zoning relief for the middle unit of the 3-unit street townhouse with a unit lot area of 220.53 meters square or 2,374 feet squared, and a lot frontage of 5,486 meter or 18 feet, where Section 12.2.6 of the Corporation of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186, as amended, requires a minimum lot area of 280 meters squared or 3,013.89 feet and a minimum lot frontage of 6.5 meters, 21.3 feet for a street townhouse. Notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on February 6, 2020, posted on the subject property and circulated to staff on the same date. The following comments were received: Town of Minto Building and Planning Assistant and the County Volunteer Planner report.
Okay. I'll call on the applicant or agent to follow the comments by the county planner and town staff. So, I guess, do the staff want to, did you want to say something, Michelle, on it, and then Linda, you were going to speak to it? Not likely. Yep, okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Make sure that that's on. Should have a green light on the top.
Yeah.
Should be
More
on.
for our fans on television.
For our fans, yes. Yes. We have many adoring fans.
Yeah.
So this report and this piece of property has been to council several times for severances. This is actually a condition of the last set of severances. So as stated, the middle lot, it requires some zoning relief for the lot area as well as frontage.
Questions from? And
I respectfully request that you approve the
right.
minor variance.
And you have your county report. I don't really need to.
All
All the
staff,
same.
including our town engineer and planners, are all in support
Yep,
of
yep.
the
Okay,
application.
thank you. And so, and then I'll ask anybody that applicant, is the applicant here?
Nope.
No, they're not. Okay, any person wishing to speak the application, come forward and address the committee. Anybody else? Okay, you guys have asked your questions already? Mm-hmm. Good. Okay,
So Mayor Bridge, what I have for you then is I have two resolutions.
Yep.
I have an approval and a deny. If you want, the approval is to approve the application by Jeremy Metzger for property legally described as part of Lot 7 north of Prospect Street subdivision plan of Park Lots 12 to 14, municipally known as 548 Derby Street, Palmerston, the town of Minto, to provide zoning relief for the middle unit of a 3-unit street townhouse with a unit lot area of 220.53 meters and a lot frontage of 5.486, whereas Section 12.2.6 of the Corporation of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186, as amended, requires a minimum lot of 280 meters squared and a minimum lot frontage of 6.5 meters for a street townhouse. Anyone in favor could sign.
okay. Go ahead and sign that.
Do we have a mover and a seconder for that?
We'll move that.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Turkson. All in favor? Good. They're going to sign. Okay. Good. So basically, while they're signing, I will state anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision to please sign the request of notice of decision prior to leaving the council chamber following the meeting. I'll officially adjourn the meeting.
I know.
Okay.
Yep.
Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convenes in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Good. Okay. Well, now we have a public meeting. We have everything tonight. Public meeting, yeah. We have a public meeting. This public meeting is for ZBA 2020-01 B. Harris, 73 Lawrence Street West, Harrison. To chair of the public meeting, the chair will call the meeting to order and request any member of the public present to please sign the attendance record. I'll state the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, the persons or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Town of Minto to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the persons or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the tribunal unless, in opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Acting Clerk McRobb is to state the municipal address and legal description of the property and purpose and effect of the application, date notice were sent.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject to the proposed amendment is located on Preston Survey 88D, Minto, Park Lot E, RP 61R 11801, Part 1, with a municipal address of 73 Lawrence Street West in the town of Minto. The purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone the subject lands from R1C FF2 Low Density Residential Zone to R2 FF2 Medium Density Residential Zone in order to permit the construction of a semi-detached residential dwelling. Other zoning relief may be considered for the proposal where appropriate. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and this should state on January 30th, 2020, and posted on the subject property. The following comments were received. Town of Minto staff, Building and Planning Assistance Report, Jessica, the planner for the County of Wellington, Patrick Hubert Kidney, environmental planner for Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, and Naomi McCullough, letter of concern and petition.
Okay, I'll call on the applicant or agent to provide, actually, do I do, no.
You can do either way.
Either way.
That's fine.
Why don't we do the town planner and then, we'll do the county. Linda's gonna do it and Michelle are gonna tag team this. Good, thank you. You can sit.
As long as you have a microphone.
as you have a
just grab
mic.
that microphone
We'll
from
get you a
Terry.
mic, yep. Yep,
Just make sure it's on.
we have both options.
Top green.
There.
Is it green?
Then you're not.
There we go.
Go.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I really have nothing much to add, other than what Annalene said. The proposal is to construct a semi-detached dwelling. The current zoning of R1C does not permit that. It just permits a single family. So the R2 would allow for that dwelling type to be located on those lands. The property is located in an area that is designated residential. Within that residential designation, a variety of housing types is permitted. So this is in line with the policies of the OP. Otherwise, we have no concerns. The flood fringe overlay will remain on the lands, which just requires a certain level of flood proofing that will be required at time of building permit. Otherwise, we have no concerns with the request.
Okay. Questions? Mark?
You, Mr. Mayor, this isn't the first time we've done this in a residential area, right? For identity multiple.
No, we're
Residential.
seeing more and more of these types
Yeah.
of developments. It's a need that's being fulfilled. The application you just saw beforehand was
Mhm,
a very
exactly.
similar situation. It was rezoned to allow the 3 units and their street townhouses. Yeah.
And I think on stats-wise, I think we've done about 10 of them, Terry, in the last little while with at 34 units, so something we've seen on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. So, Linda, anybody that would have purchased one of these lots over the last, like there's quite a number of R1C lots down there, any one of them could have changed the zoning to build a duplex?
Anybody can apply to rezone their
Mm-hmm.
lands, yes.
And it's something that we've been, as you know, from our density situation, this council has been very proactive in making sure we're trying to get affordable housing or attainable housing. So we've been looking at these opportunities in a lot of our infill lots and that type of thing. So, Michelle, did you have anything more to add? Or?
No, very little, other than certainly our town staff and planners as well as the engineer met to review the application. No further zoning amendments appear to be required. The intention is to put a semi-detached on the property. And we did receive other comments in support, such as from the Upper Grand District School Board, as well as the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, where the applicant has submitted their grading and drainage plan, which has also been approved, and any other deficiencies we would look after on the building permit side.
Yep.
We certainly did, of course, have many community members come forward to speak against, and I believe we have representation here this evening.
Right, which we're going to get
Which
into.
everyone
Yep.
has received a
Okay.
copy of.
Well, thank you for now, and then if we have more questions, we'll be able to come back and ask you. So I will now call on anyone wishing to comment in favor of the proposal, and I would assume, Chris, are you going to speak for? Maybe give us a little idea of what the proposal is.
Yeah, so he is building 2 semi-detached. They're both 1,350 square feet on the main floor with about 650 feet of finished basement as well. So it's well over 2,000 square feet of living space in each unit. They will be full brick homes, concrete driveways. He's built many homes over now for us. They're all quality houses. These aren't small. They're not too small houses. They're big places that can easily accommodate families moving into the area.
Right. Thanks. Thank you. Anyone wishing to comment in opposition to the proposed amendment? Do we have somebody here? Oh, there. Okay. I didn't. Yep. There you go.
Good evening.
You're mixing in with the kinsman. I didn't know.
Sorry. Sorry, I left my echo button on my jacket.
That's all right. That's it. Don't-
So it's an honor to speak to you tonight. I have been working in...
Oh, sorry. You have to say your name. And
I'm Naomi McCullough.
Yeah, I thought so.
Working in the town of Minto for 18 years now, and we are fortunate that we have just moved, built a home, and moved to Harrison, and it honestly feels like we have been here forever. I'm originally from the city, so adjusting to a small town life has been very unique. About 2 weeks ago, just under 2 weeks ago, I met with residents of the Lawrence Street West, John and Margaret Streets. We were concerned about this proposal. Some of our questions have been answered tonight. However, the first point we would like to make is simply the accessibility of being notified. We we did not see the sign that was posted. It's not actually posted on the lot, it's posted to the right of the lot. And given it's on white paper in the snowbank, we only found it when we were out walking dogs and out playing. It was by chance. The letters did not arrive till February 4th in our mailboxes, and we were eagerly checking every day. And that is, from what I understand now, is local mail is no longer processed locally. So I ask that a time consideration needs to be put in to place. When you're notifying and giving such a tight timeline of 20 days before a public meeting, that consideration needs to be made. So some of our questions have already asked, and I was designated, since so many of our concerned neighbors are away on vacation,
Nice.
if I would sort of be the spokesperson and bring to light some of these questions. So I understand, and I've read, and I know the province's direction is to provide mixed housing and infill. I'm also aware that there's a very large subdivision being developed behind the Lawrence Street West properties as well that are meeting that needs. Personally, we picked this lot, and we're actually the middle lot of the 5, if I can step away from the note, because it was an estate-sized lot. It had that parkland feel and gave us the space, all right? And knowing that eventually, I was told when my grandchildren come, that's when we would see the development behind us. Obviously, things are fast-tracked right now, which, if I look at my job, that's great. Our main concern is many of us who had to build on those 5 properties, we had to meet set criteria, height requirements. We had the visual streetscaping of our houses had to be approved and amended before we could even say, yes, that's the home we want. If it didn't meet that criteria, we had to go back to the drawing board and change. So we would like that to be a consideration with the design of the semi-detached home. One of our main concerns is with this rezoning, the R2, it opens up the ability for this semi-detached home not to be constructed at this point in time, but rather the property could be resold, and then what? It is an extremely large lot, which you do not find very many of. Could we be looking at a multiplex set to the back of the property with parking out front? That's not something ideally I'd like to see in our neighborhood. That is primarily, if you look at the John, Margaret, and Lawrence Street houses, single-family homes. We are all single-family homes in that U. So in that regards, we would like to request a provision, knowing that council is bound to pass any rezoning that comes forward. But the provision that we can't see a multiplex put in there at a future date or time if things happen, or that back lot could be severed. There was a lot of concerns in terms of what if talk, because we know at any time a lot can be split, and we know changes are good, but we also want a lot of thought to go behind those changes in consideration, and taking into account the building, the development that is happening behind us as well. I do appreciate seeing the report from the town planner, and the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. I know those weren't available when one of our other residences had stopped in to find out more about the plan when we finally received our notices. Actually, that was before we had received our notices. So I was greatly appreciative those were included in the minutes that I could review this afternoon. If I can just confirm, is there anything else? Christy, do you want to speak? Because this definitely impacts you. This is Christy Klaus. She is actually in the lot right next door. Is it all right if she?
Oh, sure.
Okay, speaks, okay. Sorry, just checking, you're on the list.
Thanks, Christy Claus. I'm right beside this lot, and our neighborhood is all single-family dwellings. To me, this doesn't fit at all, this duplex, or this semi-detached rather. And yeah, aesthetically, it's not as pleasing. You know, this was supposed to be my forever home that I built. And again, to echo Naomi, we were told, you know, we had certain specifications we had to meet with regard to our homes. I noticed that it's not a two-story home. That's something very important with Lawrence Street, that we all had to be 2 stories home. And the 1-story home that was built there had to spend an extra 30 grand just to make sure that their roof line was in line with ours. Okay, so to put that semi-detached in is really not looking good for us. I'm not sure it would help the resale of my home if I did decide to sell it. Yeah, for fear of sounding, I don't know, I just think it would just bring things down in our neighborhood. And I would rather, a single family home there, 2 stories, just like the rest of us. There are, I'm connected with Moorfield Excavating, so I know what's going on behind. I know that their engineer very well, and so I know there's lots of opportunities for townhomes and multi-dwelling homes, and put them behind us. That's fine, but put them behind us, not on our street. So, thank you.
Just on one of the questions, Chris, can you elaborate as far as when your person's thinking of getting this started? If
So he wants to start right away, as soon as we're ready.
okay, so it's not.
He's already had the drawings done and
So I don't think one of the concerns was if it doesn't go as a semi, then there would be an opportunity
Yes.
down the road. Now, having said that opportunity, and Linda and Terry maybe can answer this, there would have to be a site-specific. If it was changed to something else, you would have to go through a whole process, would you not? Who wants to speak to that? Oh, he wants to go back there.
Just in case I gotta pass.
Hide back there.
I'm not hiding.
So with the proposed zoning bylaw, the way that it's written, it is, the density that would be permitted is anything from a single up to a fourplex. If the zoning is going to be limited to nothing more than a semi, then that would have to be redrafted and come back to you at a later date.
Right. Okay, and but as far as if, and Linda, the one other question was, can you cut off the back half of it? There'd be no entrance to it, so I don't know how you would do that, but.
At this point in time, there isn't. But there
Right.
is the potential.
I don't.
The versions of that subdivision that I've seen circulated around to staff members have building lots backing onto yours. From a feasibility standpoint with a subdivision, it's more economical to service each way off of a street opposed to just on one side. So the only way that a severance could happen on the back half of that would be if it abuts to a road. So I haven't seen that, and it's not a feasible way to construct. It's not my hot
No,
checkbook
that
it's coming
alleviates
from.
one of our concerns.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify, if I may, the zoning would allow a fourplex on that property.
The application was to rezone it to R2, which does permit single up to a fourplex.
Correct. And that's where the majority of us would have to agree that I'm representing tonight, is that a fourplex certainly does not fit in our neighborhood.
Well, as it sounds like, it's not going to be a fourplex, it's going to be a duplex. They're going to start as soon as they can. So, not a semi, I mean, not a duplex, a semi, where they're going to start as soon as they can. So that would be I'm not
That is
too
my hope,
concerned about it.
that there will
And,
be no changes.
and as far as your
otherwise.
grandchildren at the back, one of the good news about the new subdivision going at the back, there's quite an area, quite a large area in the new subdivision, going to be open space right back in that area because of the floodplain situation. They're going to have a park back there, and
Yes,
so.
we have heard, and we've seen
Yeah.
lots of mounds of dirt piling up.
Yeah, yeah. So it's going to have some, obviously,
There are
hopefully.
definitely perks with the development going
Yep.
on as well. We just, as a group, do not want to lose the charm of our little neighborhood as well in the process of the future development. So thank you, council, for your
Thank you.
consideration.
Do you have a question, David?
Yeah, I think there was a couple there. I think we talked about the roof line. And Chris, have you looked at that? What exactly are we talking? Yeah.
Put the drawing up, it's just,
That's not the implication at all.
Yeah.
It was nice to see this drawing. We did not have
Yeah.
access to this earlier. To see that, yes, it conforms to the stone level that all of us had to have on at least the first level of our homes as well.
yeah. And Naomi, thank you for your note. You give a lot of information, and we were trying to cover off as many of those as we possibly could, and that's what it's all about, so. And I don't know if we got them all covered off, not maybe to satisfaction, but at the same token, do we answer most of those questions? I was looking through that, and I don't,
I was going through with my pen to mark off.
I know, I should have done that.
Yes. One of our residents was concerned if the outcome is to sell or to rent the properties.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was the case,
No,
but,
and that was.
but that was,
something
in there, yeah.
I was trying to recognize
Yeah.
everyone's concerns that
Yeah.
were shared.
Okay, thank you. Jean?
I just have a question about the regulations you're talking about for the houses. Where did those come from?
Okay, so those aren't regulations from the town. There were regulations or covenants, and I don't know if they're registered on title or if it's part of the agreement of purchase and sale. They're between the owners and the developer. Being this property has changed hands a few times. I don't know what the status is, but that's where those design criteria came from. It's not anything that the town can enforce, but that's the background and behind it.
On and then. did you
So
have one?
the town can't enforce it, so somebody could come in and make a single-family bungalow there, half the size of this.
And it could be all siding, it could have a gravel driveway. We don't have control over that. It's not something that we established.
Okay.
Never.
David, did you have a question?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I just had,
Sorry,
George,
sorry, Nikki.
so, I agree with Naomi and the gang down there. I think lots that size are gonna be hard to come by. But just talking what Ron was talking about, I think if we were to turn this down and it goes back, if that lot was to sell again, what's the price of the lot and what home would actually end up on there, right? You're probably gonna end up with a 900 square foot bungalow because that's all they can afford to put on there, right? So, do I agree that lot should be single family because it's a big one? It'd be really nice, right? But I think the lot price has been driven up because of it's been sold, and I think the builder is gonna do the best he can to try and get what he can out of it, right? So I think he's gonna work with everybody down there, and that's what it sounds like, right? And what would one of those go for, Chris? Do we know? Okay. Okay. Because I think there's a misconception between affordable housing and attainable housing, right? And I don't think it's going to be two hardworking people with a couple of kids that can afford these places, right? So
Yeah, that's not affordable or attainable.
no, that's right. That's right. So I don't think that's a concern down there. Right?
So right now, just to give you an idea on attainable housing, we did a survey and in Minto, I know our average house in Minto is supposed to be 240, but if you could find one for 240, it'd be really good. But really, those are the ones that people aren't selling, right? So to get into a attainable house, which you call attainable, being that two people working, say, at a local factory or whatever, or just a normal job, they need to have $84,000, and the maximum they can pay for a house is $350,000. So we don't have a lot of that. So what we're hoping in some of these semis, this is going to be a little high end because of the neighborhood. It's going to be a high end type semi, but it will be something that somebody might be able to afford.
And that is something that we recognize that we hope would be in consideration.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is. Okay. All right. Anything else? Nope. Where am I here on this? Everybody okay? I will now state, if you wish to be notified by the decision of Council of the Town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the acting clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, NOG1ZO, or email at town.minto.on.ca. If there's no further comments, I will adjourn the public meeting. Okay, thank you. All right, delegations. And it's great to have the first one up. They waited 100 years to do this. Yeah, you're looking good, Mike, for 100. Are you talking, Mike, on this? You got a few people. Would you bring up your crew? And what a great opportunity to recognize the kinsmen and all the great things you're doing. And really exciting that every time I look in the paper, you got a new member. That's a nice thing too. So that's really neat to see, Mike.
On Facebook.
It's in the paper. Aren't you reading the paper?
Facebook, yeah.
My name is Mike Lawless, representing the Harrison Kinsman Club.
And Brenda Neen, representing the Palmerston District Cats.
Your Honor, Mayor Bridge, about 100 years ago, men were coming back from First World War, and there was a young man down in Hamilton by the name of Hal Rogers that wanted to join the same service club that his father was a member of. I believe it was the Rotary, but he wasn't allowed to because you could only have one family member as part of the organization. So 100 years ago this Thursday night, he and a bunch of friends got together and had their first Kinsman meeting. So, and Harrison Kinsman Club came around 61 years later in 1959. We've been a going concern ever since, and it doesn't take very long looking around the town to see the impact we've had from arenas, pools, hockey sweaters, street signs. We convened or organized and looked after a flood fund 4 years ago for emergency funding for people, and beautifying the town in the form of murals and things like that. And we certainly couldn't have done it without other service clubs that have helped in along the years, but most importantly with the municipalities, originally the town of Harrison, but certainly now the town of Minto. So we'd certainly like to extend thanks to you and your staff for being so cooperative. You give us many of the ideas that we use to put our money towards and things like that, and it's certainly appreciated. So.
And the Palmerston Cats came along 35 years ago. I was actually one of the charter members. There's not many of us left. But we've done a number of things in and around our community as well. Playground, SIDS monitor for the hospital, continual support of the food bank every year through a number of different projects. And, support again where sports clubs and things are looking for funding. They often come to the club to get that kind of stuff. And we also appreciate all the support that we get from the town and council for any of our events that we do put forth. And we hope to see that support continue. Thank you.
Great. Any comments? We have a proclamation that I'm going to read out. But just one of the things, Mike, you didn't mention Tannery Park.
That's part of the beautification.
Okay, because what a great job. And that was my first opportunity to work with the Kinsman when I came in as mayor, and we had to get that little spot fixed up. And you guys had your hands up, and you went and did it and paid us off. And I think we funded the money. You paid us off in less than the time frame. And
I think one of our members, Paul McPhail, that's been an itch in his craw since the fire.
Yep.
To get that spot looking nicer than it was. So.
Yeah, and all the stuff you do down at the parks and all the other stuff. I always say one of the advantages we have in a small town is our service clubs, and certainly Kinsman has been a great one in our area in the Canuts. You still have your food.
Our fry bus.
Yes, that's we've had that at many of our events.
Best poutine around.
Best poutine around. Yep. I've had some of that. You can tell. Anyways, did anybody want to say anything before I do the proclamation? Or? Okay.
Congratulations.
Here, I'll read this out, and then, whereas Kin Canada has been a vibrant, responsible, all-Canadian association of service clubs devoted to the concept of serving its communities throughout Canada since its founding in Hamilton, Ontario on February 20th, 1920. Whereas Kin Canada has been dedicated to meeting the needs of the community and has diligently sought the development of and completion of timely, relevant programs to meet the needs and challenges of our ever-evolving society. And whereas Kin Canada is to celebrate its 100th anniversary on February 20th, 2020. Therefore, do we just put the town of... do you want-
Therefore, I, Mayor Bridge.
Okay, therefore, I, Mayor Bridge of the town of
Minto.
Minto,
Sorry.
feel... well, they didn't have it written in here.
It's a
I
blank,
didn't want to
like
say
a
the wrong
blank, so-
thing, Mike. And feel that each citizen would welcome the opportunity to pause and reflect with pride on the rich heritage of accomplishment throughout the 100 years Kinsman, Kinnett, and Kin clubs have been in existence in Canada and have expressed the idea of honoring our local club. I do hereby declare Saturday, February 20th, 2020, Kin Canada Day, and declare the week of February 16th, 20 to the 22nd, 2020, Kin Canada Week. Celebration of kinsmen, Kinnets, and kin in Canada, and urge all citizens to salute the local kinsmen, Kinnets, and kin members. In witness thereof, I hereby set my hand, the cause, and the seal. Wait a minute, the seal. You got the seal?
I've got it at my desk, yes.
Okay. They want to do that when you're all here, and from myself and the council, we really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing, and continue whenever we can do to help. Let us know.
We certainly will, thank you.
Yep. Ron?
Are you bringing back Walter Ostanek?
Some want to.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
Mike, do you have anything, Brenda, anything special planned for the 20th on Saturday?
No.
No?
22nd.
Sorry, the 22nd?
Yeah,
Oh,
is actually also Kin Kindness Day across the country, and many clubs are doing all kinds of things. Palmerston in particular is going to be bagging groceries at our local grocery store and handing out homemade goodies to
Oh,
the
nice.
folks as they come in. We raised our centennial flag yesterday on Family Day at the home of Brian and Mary Noble. They were able to let us use their flagpole. Flagpoles in Minto apparently are very scarce to come by. So it's flying proudly there for the week, and yeah, that's what you guys have got on for kindness.
We haven't gotten involved in that yet.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to find a flagpole and somewhere in Harrison.
We'll figure it out.
Buy one too
Yep.
as well, so.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, yeah. Next up, we have something that makes me think the spring is on its way, summer. We got Tanya and Quinn coming up and talking about the Mayor's Golf Tournament. So I'm getting the clubs all dusted off. When are we be able to go? Quite soon?
So hopefully.
Okay.
So the 10th annual Mayor's Charity Golf Tournament will be held on Thursday, August the 6th at Pike Lake Golf and Country Club.
We are now accepting applications from nonprofit organizations that fit into one of three categories: community betterment, service clubs, or sports clubs, to receive the proceeds from this year's tournament. Applications will be accepted until Monday, April 6th, and will be available or are available on our website or to be picked up at the office.
Over the past 9 years, the Mayor's Charity Golf Tournament has raised over $100,000 and has assisted 35 groups or organizations with their financial expenses or events in our community. Last year, 4 organizations benefited from the proceeds, and the previous funds have been used to beautify our downtowns, purchase new sports equipment, fundraise for many community reunions and events, and many projects benefiting the youth of Minto.
Last year, we had a full tournament, and we're hoping that this year's event will be another great success. We look forward to supporting and assisting our local groups again this year.
Thanks, girls. Yep, get your applications in, eh? They'll go fast. I think we had 4 last year, did we not? 4 groups, yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work when you're doing this. You know, without you 2 girls and having Janet this year, we're gonna have to do it without Janet. She's down in Florida relaxing.
she'll be back.
She'll be back for it, though.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. And next up, we have Mike Dobson and talking a bit about rezoning. And the Dobson family's been around for not quite 100 years, Mike, but you're up there, right? How many years with the business?
43.
43. There you go. So I think your slides are up there, and I do just want to kind of fill in the council while you're here.
So I'm Mike Dobson. I'm looking at a rezoning of the property at Benning Farm, which is right across from TG Minto. I'm looking for support from council before I go through the zoning application process, because I know the property is outside the urban boundary of Palmerston, and it is outside of the official plan of the county. So just a little history. We've Dobsons have been in business in Palmerston since 1976. We've had many different things that we did over the years. My dad Al and Jim Dobson, they started in '76 selling fuel and coal.
I shovel coal, I understand it now.
I was not around, so I don't. And then they started selling used trucks and building truck bodies and building trucks, basically modifying trucks for people. We've also sold new and used truck parts basically the whole time. We had a customer auto body shop for years. We don't do that anymore. We do a little of our own body work for our own trucks that we sell, but we don't do any customer work basically. They had a rent-a-wreck business, renting cars and mini cube vans and stuff like that, and that hasn't been happening for 15 years or better, and we still get phone calls. More recently, we've been selling containers and trailers and renting containers and trailers over the last 15 years anyway. And everything we do requires a lot of space. Trucks, trailers, containers require a lot of space. So basically our business is at a junction where we're too big for the space we have, so we either need to expand or downsize. Spending 40 years in business, growing your business, downsizing is not what you really want to do.
No.
So we need to expand, and it would be nice to be in one big location because we have multiple yards in town, and we're always moving stuff yard to yard because it's not in the right spot. Or we have 3 and 4 rows of trailers because we don't have enough space to spread them out. So basically our business options are expanding in Palmerston. I have a property that is available. I've already talked to him about purchasing it. Or moving the business away and finding a property that would suit. And if I do that, well, my family's going to move as well. I don't really want to do that, but that may be an option. Or downsizing. Like I said before, spending 40 years in business, growing your business, it's not something you always want to do to downsize. We do employ around 20 employees, goes up and down. With expanding and making a bigger property, we'll be expanding our employment as well. So that's good for the town, and if we downsize or move out of the town, we're going to decrease employment. So the property, 579 Main Street East, or it's got a Wellington Township County
Yeah,
code
we
number,
know
whatever.
we know where it is, I think.
Yeah. So there's 3 lots, 3 sections basically. We have the 12.26 acres would be the starting point, and that would be the main parking lot for the trucks, trailers, containers. And then second step would be in the smaller front corner of 3.75 acres to build a shop. Build a shop for all the repairs and anything else, and have offices there as well. And then at the back, kind of behind that, 6.8 acres would be for more parking lot or future development, depending on how things are going. So I talked to Maitland Valley. I got a report from them, and just the one little corner of the property that I'm talking about is kind of in the floodplain, which wouldn't be a big deal to just avoid that corner, plant trees, whatever needed to be done in that area. As you see the green line going through the center, that's kind of the open ditch or whatever. So that's kind of in front of that is where I'm proposing to make into commercial property. And anything behind that is agriculture. It's all agricultural, but behind that I would leave as agricultural. So there's about 70 some acres still would be agricultural. And then the house lot is still in there. The house and the shop that's existing, I would leave as existing as house and a shop, and I would be eventually moving there. If we have this property, we would end up having 2 other properties for sale because we don't need them anymore. So we have 2 lots on King Street. 350 King Street is 2.9 acres and it's zoned industrial. And 875 King Street is close to 5 acres, and 2 acres of that is zoned commercial. And the back half that butts up to the subdivision is actually zoned residential. That could be very easily made into a subdivision. 350 King Street, yeah, they're industrial, and that kind of backs on towards the sewage treatment plant.
Yep.
And that picture there is the front part of the property, which is beside Ashland. That's commercial, and then the back half that butts up to the subdivision is residential. And as you see in the pictures and stuff, like we put a berm in there to appease the neighbors and everything else, and keep our stuff, you know, less visible to the neighbors. You know, everybody doesn't want to look at trailers and trucks and stuff. So we did it before. No problems doing it again with the subdivision that's beside this property that we're talking about. So the benefits, you know, is more room. So containers can be organized better, so they're not 3 and 4 rows deep, so you don't have to move stuff every day to get what you want. You can organize the trailers better, so when I'm selling them, they're organized so people come in and what they're looking for is not just randomly spread around the yard. And also, if it's in one spot, we could have better equipment for moving it around, where like a shunt truck for moving trailers, it's quicker, it's easier because you just back under, lift it up. Well, we can't do that now because the hydro wires tell us we can't do that. Driving up and down the road. Right. Also, we'd have, when we build a new shop, it'd be better laid out. It'll have more environmentally friendly because if you can build new, it's a lot easier to do stuff up to date compared to retrofitting old buildings. Also, it's more worker friendly if it's a new build. It's better lighting, better everything else. And then also this property gives us room for future expansion, which problem now is all our properties are beside Perth County and they're all farmland beside them. So we, without going to Perth County to either change their zoning on the farmland, which doesn't always work well. So, benefits to the town, there'll be residential property available, that 2.8 acres. I've actually got a developer that'll buy it already. Also, there's commercial property and industrial property that's ready to go. It's serviceable, it's ready. One's got a shop on it. So it's more available for more employment with other people. Could be less equipment, less of our equipment moving up and down the road because we go from yard to yard every day, all day. If you're in town on King Street, you probably see our trucks go by, could be 5 times, 10 times, 20 times a day, or forklifts or backhoes or other equipment for moving stuff. Also, we could have a yard, put a fenced-in area for storage for camper trailers and boats for other residents of the town or around. I know that was one of the bylaws that was talked about this year. To get them out of driveways. Other possibilities, owner-operators or truck drivers that have trucks that live in town, they could have somewhere to park. I think that's all I got.
Right. Yep. Questions? Now, Linda, you're here.
Yeah.
Maybe can I put you on the spot a little bit here, and talk about because We have the senior planner here, Mike, so we might as well take use of all that. Yeah. And you can maybe go through, I know Mike has probably talked to somebody, it sounds like, from the
Me?
county. Yes, Linda, okay.
A while ago now. Yeah.
Right, okay. And what our steps are on this? Because we're working on a couple different options with the town right now, right? Can you
Yes.
explain a bit?
Yeah, so, and I did explain to Mr. Dobson that there is because he's looking at lands that are outside of the
Right.
urban boundary, that does limit him somewhat in his potential. We didn't really get into too much. You just told me what you were thinking of doing. We talked about maybe instead of doing an official plan amendment, maybe we could look at a site-specific zoning exemption. There might be some options available, but I really would have to look at the details and exactly what he wants to do. But in terms of an official plan amendment and bringing it into the urban boundary, I'm not sure that that's something that could happen
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Yeah, but a site-specific, is there a possibility of that? Because,
I think that there's something we might be able to look at something.
so my suggestion would be to sit down again with, now you got a little bit more detail, like you've gone a little bit further on, and talk a bit about that. And who would sit down with Mike? Yourself and
Yep.
somebody from the town, or?
Yeah, I think so. I did speak with Terry briefly
Okay.
about it after I spoke to Mr. Dobson, and there were some concerns with respect to compatibility with the adjacent residential development and how that could be mitigated potentially.
With
if-
berms and different things?
Yeah. But I do see on your list of proposed uses, you've added a few things. So I think we need to talk more, since I spoke with you anyways. So we would have to speak a bit more about that and see.
So maybe,
how that
Mike,
could
my
fit in.
suggestion would be get back in here and sit down with Linda and Terry and with some of your stuff. I mean, I think you've laid out your both sides really well. So now it's just an opportunity, and going for the official plan is going to take forever. Like it's years. So I think if you try a site-specific and see if we can come up with some kind of there, and we come back to council with a little bit more of it laid out. That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay?
Terry?
So I'll get you guys to get together and then go from there. Is that all? Good job. Well done. You laid it out, and I think, is the council have any questions right at this point? Because I think we'll probably see this again and with a little bit more detail. But, all right. That was quite interesting. Oh, Al, did you want to say something?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Excuse me. A lot of people don't know what we do.
Yeah.
I was just about late getting here tonight.
Yeah.
Last week, we rode Xavier to the Honduras, and the week before that, we rode West
I had an interesting chat with Mike at the family day, and just kind of got a bit of an idea, because I kind of knew you had the containers, but I didn't realize what you did with the trucks and all the different things you do with the trucks. It's quite interesting. Yeah, good. All right, thank you. Next up is, and I'm going to turn this over to our man that wears two hats here. He's the deputy mayor, but he's also the chair of the Maitland Valley, so he's going to go down and be the chair.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge, Council. Privileged to be here today. On behalf of Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, I am the chair this year.
Yes, you are.
And I represent Minto, Wellington North, and Mapleton. January 27th, the town received a letter from the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority in reference to priorities for 2020, budgeting, the levy, and it's been sent out to everybody, so everybody's had an opportunity to look at it.
Yep.
I'd like to introduce Phil, who needs no introduction. He's our general manager, secretary, treasurer, and we'll be spending a bit of time here tonight explaining some of our priorities. So presently, the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority is reviewing its services, infrastructure, and equipment, and that's been happening for the last 5 years. our focus has been to identify what our core services, infrastructure and equipment should be, and to eliminate those services that are not considered to be core services. So we did this because we have limited resources, just like the municipalities, and we need to be strategic in how we use these resources. So we're focusing on doing important things well. We've identified 3 core services that must be done well in order to deal with effectively with our watershed challenges in the Maitland. So the first one is public safety related to flooding and erosion. I think we're well aware of that in Minto. Stewardship and soil and water resources. And the third one is set a good example for stewardship in our conservationist areas. So I'm going to ask Phil to elaborate on some of these things, so thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to go through some of the service area changes that and some of our priorities for 2020. So as Dave mentioned, helping our member municipalities reduce the potential for loss of life and property damage that are susceptible to flooding and erosion is our top priority. And with climate change, we're seeing increasing risk of flooding and erosion. We have almost $500 million worth of development at risk across the watershed and along the Lake Huron shoreline. Our top priority for flood and erosion safety in 2020 is, of course, completing the modeling on the preferred options for Harriston flood mitigation study. That work will be incorporated into Harriston's watershed plan, which is being undertaken by Minto and supported by the town engineer in Maitland Valley. And according to Steve Jackson, this has to be completed by March 31st.
Yes, sir. Gord's got trouble with the federal government. So,
Yeah. So,
anyways, and on that, Phil, there was a meeting the other day, and
Yep.
just again, you got a gem in Steve. He's really talented, and what we're doing there, we're getting some neat things coming at the public open meeting when we're getting back to the public. I think he's got some good stuff happening.
Yeah, he put in 46 hours overtime the last 2 weeks. To
Yeah,
try and
he's done a
meet
good
those
job on it.
deadlines, So
A lot of stuff there.
he's suffering right now from it, but
Oh, is he?
yeah, he's got the flu. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the right one there. So then the next thing we're doing in flood forecasting is implementing the last of the improvements that we identified after the 2017 flood debrief related to our flood forecast system. These improvements related to a backup alarming system to alert our duty officers of extreme weather events, and installing rain gauges that won't freeze in the winter so that we can measure the water content of the snow that falls in these gauges, because we're getting warmer, wetter winters with more rain coming in the wintertime. Next slide, please. So yes, along the shoreline, if you think you have problems, you should be on Lake Huron right now.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
really
have,
pounding them.
700 cottages and homes assessed at $300 million located within the 100-year erosion limit along Lake Huron. We're looking at record levels for this time of the year and no ice to protect that lake bank. So we're going to be spending a significant amount of time working with landowners, contractors, and our shoreline municipalities. We'll be helping develop and organize an erosion emergency exercise for Central Huron, and continue to work with ACW and Town of Goderich on their erosion emergency plans. We'll be working to engage shoreline property owners to give them the right information so they know that what can safely be done without jeopardizing the safety of their neighbors. And we'll also be working with the Huron County Planning Department to try and identify easier ways and quicker ways so that people can get planning approvals to move those buildings back from the bank. Everybody knows that planning is a very deliberate process and sometimes a lengthy process, so we need to find ways to speed that process up before we lose them. So moving on to watershed stewardship, one of our priorities for watershed stewardship services this year is to identify areas that require restoration in the watershed, floodplain and river valley lands that are being used for cash crop, where the potential is really high for soil and nutrients to be lost. Rural stormwater management and cover crops to help landowners and municipalities keep soil and nutrients on the land and out of water courses, including municipal drains. So So we're going to be mapping these areas to better understand the support and the incentives that they need to undertake these key stewardship practices. And then we'll use that strategy to focus our services because we do have limited resources to the areas that need it. So can I go back to there, please? Back another, one more. Yeah, right there. So our first priority, as I mentioned, is to help landowners restore floodplain and river valley lands and natural areas or for permanent hay. This is a picture of the Middle Maitland upstream of Listowel, where we're working to restore 800 acres of floodplain and river valley lands with landowners. Next one, please. Second priority for stewardship is to help landowners and municipalities incorporate rural stormwater management into the design of municipal drains in order to reduce the loss of nutrients and soil. So rural stormwater management helps slow the water down, allows it to spread out and to soak into the ground. And last but not least, the third priority is to work with landowners to encourage the use of cover crops to improve soil health and to keep cover on the land through the winter months because we're seeing more of these rapid snowmelt events and rain, so that's a prime time for soil and nutrients to be moving and to see runoff. And the next slide, please. Wellington. We're still delivering the Wellington and Huron County clean water projects. 4 projects were completed in Minto in 2019 with an estimated value of about $11,400. Next slide, please. We have a number of demo projects that we're finishing up this year. The Scott Municipal Drain Rural Stormwater Management Project in North Huron is going to be completed this year thanks to the support from Bruce Power. Bruce Power has provided funding to incorporate all the rural stormwater management work into the municipal drain report so that those works will be looked after in perpetuity. Because there's been a lot of money invested, we want to make sure that those works are looked after. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, the Middle Maitland Headwaters Restoration Project is another priority for us to work with landowners to restore floodplain and river valley lands. We have approximately 800 acres that we want to try and restore upstream of Listowel, and we've completed 92 acres over the last 5 years. Next slide, please. So moving on to our conservation areas, we certainly want to have conservation areas that set a good example for conservation as well as ensuring that they're safe for the public to use. We're losing a lot of ash trees in our conservation areas and having to take those down and having to do a lot of repairs to our trails so that the public can use them. Next slide, please.
Bill, are you taking those down before they go bad, or are you doing them after?
Well, it's whenever we see they're starting to go.
I know.
We see the signs, Yeah, we have to, and we also have to check after storms as well.
Right.
Infrastructure. Everybody is struggling with infrastructure, so our board has prioritized our infrastructure. We have 2 mills, one in Gorey and one in Brussels, that we've declared surplus. We've been approached by a community group that's looking at options for trying to restore or move those mills because if they can't, then they're going to come down. And at the bottom is the Galbraith Conservation Area located near Millerton. We've declared that surplus. For 28 years, the Galbraith Optimist Club operated it as a day camp and invested a lot of money in buildings. Unfortunately, the Optimist Club is no longer able to do that, and we're not able to take that on, so that property has been offered to the municipalities in Perth to see if they would like it, and North Perth is looking at leasing it right now. If we're not able to make a deal with them, then that property will go up on the market. Next slide, please. More infrastructure. So the board has decided to decommission the Gorey Dam, which washed out in 2017. This year we'll be doing the hydrology and hydraulic studies to see just how much of that structure we have to take out, and then we'll start working on a rehabilitation plan for the river and the conservation area. So we're hoping to be able to raise the funding to be able to do that in 2021. So that's all the bad news. Now we'll move on to some good news. Infrastructure. Falls Reserve Conservation Area and Campground located near Ben Miller. It's the only campground we have, and it must operate on the revenue that it raises from people that use it. And for the last 4 years, 3 years, it's generated enough surplus to pay for upgrading the hydro and upgrading the septic system. So that's about $300,000 worth of improvements. So it is doing really well without any municipal levy being put into it.
And Phil, if I can remember, a few years back, there was concern about that one. You were going to have to sell it, right?
Yes.
And then
yep.
you
It
put
was
this plan
losing
together.
money. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's
we've been
good.
able to turn that around and eliminate parts of the services that weren't making money, and it's doing very well right now.
Excellent.
Next slide, please. So Maitland Valley's also developed a carbon footprint reduction strategy to reduce our use of fossil fuels and to sequester carbon through the planting of trees and shrubs. We've purchased 2 all-electric vehicles, and for our trucks and other equipment, we're purchasing the most fuel-efficient vehicles and equipment that we can. And we're also committed to naturalizing 100 acres of marginal farmland that are located on our lands as well, so that, again, we can set a good example of land use on our own properties. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave to finish off with the financial side.
Thank you, Phil. So you can see we've been very busy with a small group of people. So we also stress the need to get out and visit our ministers. We did have Minister Jeff York, who is the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. We met with him and our MPP, Lisa Thompson. We stressed the importance of maintaining the watershed stewardship as a core service for conservation authorities. We recommended that the cost of the Drinking Water Source Protection Program should not be downloaded onto the municipal levy as proposed in Bill 108. We think that this program should remain as a provincial funded program. We also stressed the need for the federal provincial flood and erosion damage reduction program, in which we are very interested in. It helps design the rural municipalities such as Minto to fund the major flood damage reduction projects such as the project being developed in Hairston, which Phil alluded to. So, the total budget for the MVCA in 2020 is $3.7 million. We have a proposed levy increase for 2020 of $92,132, spread amongst 15 municipalities. This levy increase, it also includes the $34,132 in funding that was eliminated by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry in 2019. So Minto's share to help us balance the budget would be $6,136. Priority to have a stable base for the core services, infrastructure, and equipment. And in order to balance the budget, a couple other things that we've done, we've eliminated the grid movement for our employees. Over the last, this is the second year in a row we've done that. And we've shifted some stewardship staff costs to the project budget in 2020. We have fewer staff today than we did in 1990. So we're running very lean and mean. So again, thank you for the opportunity to present here tonight. One other thing that I was going to say was my friend Phil in 2020 celebrating 40 years with the Maitland Valley Conservation Project. So we do appreciate your support, and if there's questions, why we'll try to answer them.
All right. Well, all the tough ones will go to Dave. Wow.
I don't know whether you can tell this or not. I know we did some work in Harrison, take the trees out and such like to help with the flooding situation. We had a flooded out in Drayton, but we didn't really flood out too badly in Harrison. Is that because of what the work you've done, or is that is there any way of telling?
Yeah, that flood in January didn't get as bad as we hoped to. So yeah, I think Steve thinks that helps the water get away, but whether it lessened it or not is
He's going to talk about that, Ron, when we have our public meeting. He's got some statistics on it, but
Steve's the expert on that.
So he does, I've talked to Steve a few times, and he firmly believes that it certainly has helped.
Yeah, because Drayton seemed to be flooded as bad as they were, and we certainly weren't.
Okay, well, no other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you, Phil.
thank you, Phil.
See you later.
Now, yeah, Judy's sitting down. Joan, would you like to get up? Pardon me, I've got a tickle here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Tickle. Help you?
Well, you might have to do
He
a talk.
choked you up.
Do we have any, we have some fishermen friends?
No, I've got a thing. Give me a candy.
Don't swallow it.
Oh, this is a good one.
That'd probably be better for you.
This is a good one, Joan. Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks, Joan, for coming and presenting to us with your concerns about the sidewalks.
Well, I'm not complaining. This is not a complaint.
Mhm.
My bottom line of all this is the fact that on Daly Street, during the summer, there's a lot of people that walk up and down our side, 265, across from Legion. Now, in the building I live in, there's 12 seniors. On the other side of this building, there are 3 more seniors. And I'm not from Palmerston originally, so I don't know everybody down the street. But I need to walk. And I've seen people with walkers, canes, and I know of 3 people who have had concussions from falling on ice, trying to maneuver the unplowed sidewalks. A lady just on a corner of Norman and Dally, broken ankle from falling. And anyway, I just wanted to thank Jean and Annaline and Mike for their help. And each one has got this printout. I'm just going to read my blurb here. I've read Mike's 3 different attachments, all 32 pages. And I have read them all, and they are quite adequate for explaining the town's minimum maintenance services. However, one thing I found in the attachments was that there are not any future plans in any of the printouts for Palmerston for updating Valley Street sidewalk. Now, my sidewalk on 265 does not get shoveled, but across the street from the Legion does get shoveled. The streets, Brunswick Street, the street from Dally up to Bolton does not get shoveled. But go the other way from Dally Street down Brunswick to Main, it does get shoveled. I just like to walk around the block, same as a lot of other seniors in that area. I guess probably all I can expect of a positive outcome of this here tonight is that the roads department consider and plan for such and maybe an improved level of care. I don't know what the width of my sidewalk is. I don't know what the width of the one in front of the Legion is, although I do know that it's plowed. In Mike's attachment, one of them said that it couldn't be less than 1 meter wide and then another paragraph, it was 1.2 substandard width, and then the 1.5 is now. You
Yeah.
want to correct that? You'd like?
No, so the 1 meter that is referred to in there is the minimum cleared path at any given time.
Is that the width of the plow?
No, so the plows that we have are currently cleared to a 5-foot width, which the sidewalks are substandard for that.
And the plows can't be adjusted to go to fit?
No.
Like on an angle to fit down?
That's correct. Like the new minimum maintenance standards for rehabs or installations, new installations, is 5 feet. So when they refer to that 1 meter clear path, that is basically going down the sidewalk with a 5-foot machine, and then they have the ability to blow into that 3 feet width. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like most municipalities that do clear sidewalks do clear to the 5-foot standard width, and then just the maintenance, the level of maintenance to
And
that
also, I understand,
reduces.
depending on the repair of the sidewalk itself.
Yep.
Or the lack of.
Yep.
I would like to be able to walk around the block with my dog. And I know a lot of other seniors. I know a man that in my building has fallen 3 times because he walks his dog around the block. It's another lady. Fell a couple of years ago and damaged her rotator cuff, and she couldn't get it fixed because of her lung problem. These are seniors that need to walk, want to walk, don't have cars, they have to get from A to B. Unfortunate, I've got a car, and I've just started back walking since January. And I want to continue doing that for my health reasons. I'm a senior. I need that exercise, and so does the rest of the seniors on our street. I also read in Mike's printout was, this is interesting, the strategic plan update. The town is supportive of pedestrian and cycling environment. Walk-friendly community, date 2014. Practical steps to make walking safe, convenient, where accessible for persons of all abilities, as there are certain plans for improvement and expansions of sidewalks. Now, this is 2014. I'm asking when? When can our seniors get out and walk around the block for their necessary exercise?
So, Joan, I did get some statistics there just for you. In the last 5 years, we've spent $732,000 in operating capital sidewalk budget. So we're trying to get there. I mean, when we came on board here, this is my 3rd term, but my 1st term, sidewalks had been unfortunately left. And we had 4-foot sidewalks. We can't plow 4-foot sidewalks very well. It can't be done. And so what we did was do a master plan of sidewalks. And this council has been very supportive of sidewalks. When we get extra money, we try to put it into sidewalks. We do, it doesn't seem like a lot, but we do 2.3 kilometers of sidewalks per year. Anticipate 2.5 again this year. Anytime we do a new road construction, we try to put the sidewalk back into play. We're trying to almost, in some cases, we have sidewalks on both sides of the street. In order for us to get at least one sidewalk that we can plow, we might have to go to one side of the street. I mean, it's just going to be, it's just part of what we can do on a budget. So $732,000. When we look at a budget, our budget's only about what was it, Gord? 5.6 million. That's all we have that we can do the whole town and everything we do. So I appreciate what you're saying, and we try our best to make it as safe as possible for you. But and in your particular one, I don't know whether that is on our strategic plan, Mike.
It isn't.
Is Derby?
I'm sorry to interrupt. The printouts of Palmerston that were in Mike's,
Okay, so I don't know where they're all
for
late-coded.
future plans. There
We've got
wasn't-
future plans where,
Never, ever was Dowling
Okay.
included in that, or Brunswick. for that
Okay.
matter.
So the original plans that were submitted to council in 2018, they did not include Dally Street, but that was basically our starting point. So
Mhm.
once we get to that level, then we're able to go back and look at some of the other streets that don't have sidewalks and then implement them at that time.
Well, we have sidewalks, but
Mhm.
they need to be replaced. They are well-traveled. They are used, like,
Yep.
Follow the footprint.
Yeah.
You try
So-
going through them and you're up to knees in just to
we
get-
can't plow those though, Joan, the ones that are small, like we can't
No, I
plow.
understand that. I understand that.
And, yeah.
It's just frustrating that when you want to get out and get some fresh air and get some exercise, take your dog out.
No, I appreciate that.
And,
And all I'm saying is this council is committed to trying to do as much sidewalk work as we possibly can. Mike?
Just one more thing to add, Joan, too. Back in 2017-18 winter season, we were still only doing like the school routes and the downtown cores. So since that time, we've actually, we've at least doubled, if not tripled, the amount of sidewalks that we maintain in the wintertime.
well, it's interesting because there's a lot of kids, I won't say a lot, there's a few kids that do come across Sally to get to the high school. And
Yep.
there's mothers and their young kids and teenagers that come down Brunswick
Yep.
to get them. But neither one of these are that.
You know, I know we've
That's
done the
correct.
sidewalks
Yeah.
going up to where the crossing guard is. We did all those.
Yeah, well, yes, and it
So-
says that in my report that.
No, I appreciate-
we're going to do
Yeah.
the well-traveled ones. But we were well-traveled too.
And we do, and unfortunately, you're right when you say some people don't have a car. We do have indoor walking available in both Palmerston and
If you
Harrison.
don't have a car, you try to walk to the arena.
I understand that, you just said that. I mean, so hopefully, maybe we can work out something with some neighbors or whatever, or maybe even some groups to get people to those walking sessions.
Some people have to drive to Listerville
Yeah.
to get their exercise in a proper.
But if you know of people, maybe we can even get them, arrange something with somebody that they could get down to the walk-in side. But I don't want to sit here and think that we can possibly fix all, and have
No, I'm
every
not
sidewalk.
expecting you. I'm not
No.
expecting to.
No.
And I'm not criticizing
No.
the town. The town has been well looked after, beautiful flowers, cleaned up streets in early spring. No, I'm not criticizing. the
And
town.
if
They've
we
done
can
a
find more
wonderful job.
money somewhere, or the government wants to give us some of the money that you give them, the other two levels, but on property taxes alone, I always have to get back to this. We have 9% of the revenue and 60% of the infrastructure. And without gas tax and other things from other levels of government that you pay into, we keep harping at them to give us more, that we can actually do more things. We're limited on our property tax base to how much we can
So
get
are
done.
the seniors in walking.
Well, no,
So they are limited. They're
Mhm.
limited. They can't.
Yep.
I have, some senior in our apartment will walk upstairs, up the stairs, and
Right.
down the stairs, and up the stairs, downstairs,
Yep.
just to get that exercise. They're not getting outside. They can't get outside.
I appreciate that, but if we
People
can
with-
get them to the, maybe we can get them to the walking spots. There's a senior group that we do work with that maybe could work on some of that, if people can't get to the walking, indoor walking, especially in the wintertime.
And that's a whole different ballgame, too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
very much.
I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions? Good. Thank you very much. Public question period. Anybody got a question? Yes, David.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
For that candy, by the way.
I
That
don't think
works
I've
good.
seen anybody up here in public question period.
Mhm.
You said something?
Sorry, David.
Don't think I've ever seen anybody up here in public question period, so I thought I'd maybe
Oh.
just take a quick advantage of it. So I'm here as David Anderson, the license issuer.
Mhm.
And I just want to make a little comment on the Dobson's presentation tonight. I've probably been working with them not as long as they've been in business, but probably 38 years of that time. And comments on how they run their business is a very efficient business. I deal with a lot of dealers, and I must say that they're very, the way they run their business is probably as efficient as any dealer can run with the type of business they do. So I just wanted to add that to them because I know what their business incorporates, and they do add a lot of asset to our community. So I just wanted to make
Thanks,
that
David.
comment to council. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, get to your question.
Correspondence.
Well, there's one that I would like to see us.
Yeah, I want the county.
Let me think.
County count. Yep. Yeah. Judy.
Correspondence.
Yes.
Item 12B, the Security from Trespass and Protecting Food Safety Act 2019. That was introduced in early December in the House by Minister Erdy Hardeman.
Yep.
And it goes to committee on the 24th of February, which is next week already.
Yes.
And they're looking to have some municipal support for that bill. And the time is really tight, obviously. So I would appreciate council's consideration for a letter to be sent in immediately to support, in support of that bill. Wellington North sent a letter from their last meeting. The form letter is fine. I think the important part really is seeing the Town of Minto letterhead.
Okay,
That's the
do I have a
important-
seconder for that? Or Turton? All in favor? Yeah, it was one that was going to pull in, and Ernie had a real good chat about that the last time I was talking to him, so
Yeah.
it's very
Okay.
important.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else? I don't think there was anything else there that I was going to... Okay, you got a mover to accept the correspondence? Benson? Dirksen, all in favor? Reports of committees. What have we got? Parks and Rec. We'll pass it over to Ron.
Yeah, I guess I'll be doing the report on our PrAC meeting and recreation. Unfortunately, Matt can't be here, and I'm sure all of us bring his deepest sympathies to him and to his family. So, Matt has asked me if I would do this for him, so more than glad to. First of all, the Beehive Park situation was brought to our council, and at that time we thought it would come back to us on March 4th, and we invited a delegation of those that were here, or some of them at least, to come and speak to us, and at that time we hope we'll have some sort of recommendation to come back to council, or at least let you know what happened at that meeting. Norgan Theater again, 10,000 misses this year. It's just, it's fantastic, and all that can be said because of our volunteers that, now we got great staff too, but we only got one that works part-time to help us, but volunteers have got that thing going and continued on with it, and it's an amazing thing. I talk about it when I go to OSAM and different communities, and they're just amazed that we could run a theater at that and then also make money. We had a Christmas show. We had a Celtic Christmas. It was excellent. People really enjoyed it. They had a standing ovation at the end of it. And in fact, we're having that group come back, and they're going to be the lead group for Party in the Park this year and again, the Norgan Theater put that along with the Lions to run that this summer. Programs. Matt has been phenomenal at putting together grassroots hockey, pickleball, and different programs. You have the basketball program. I believe your son, Mr. Mayor, is involved in that and volunteering. And we have, again, another volunteer group that Matt and his recreation staff are amazing at getting volunteers to help out with all these programs. And again, they wouldn't run without them. Our master plan update, we launched Engage Minto on the task force, reviewed recreation programs. I believe everything, they had 60 online surveys, a lot of positive feedback, nothing too negative if there was any. They had a lot of several good ideas for different programs that we could bring forward. So it appears that master plan, the way we're doing it, is a really good thing, that we're getting involvement, we're getting people looking at it, and at least they want to be part of it. Facility manager report. Again, Al couldn't be here tonight, so I get the benefit of doing that. Past events included the walking program that we talked about earlier. That's been a big thing in our community. A weekly youth program, 3 hockey tournaments, 5 Minto 81s games, and they're doing very well. They're up 3-1 in their series with Shelburne. If they put them out, that's all good for our community. Minor Hockey Day, blood donor clinic, 2 PA day programs, a meeting, a junior room ball fundraising supper, which I attended, fire and ice, and 3 Christmas parties. The Minor Hockey Day. Gunnar, were you at that? Were you involved in that? What was all involved in that? It was an all-day event?
So basically, every minor hockey team plays a game, and then they just have a barbecue, or not a barbecue, but the booth's open, and it's just a chance for everybody to come out and watch every team play, basically.
Great. Past events in Clifford include a weekly church, Bible study on Mondays, church youth programs, a pickleball 4 times per week, 3 meetings, a Christmas Day dinner, a hockey tournament, a New Year's Eve party, and 3 Christmas parties. Yeah. Busy spot. Maintenance. Board repairs were done in Harrison. Maintenance was done to the men's room in the Harrison Curling Club. New speakers have been installed in the Palmerston Arena lobby. They forgot to do that when they put speakers in, and they thought, well, they better put them in because anybody in the lobby couldn't understand what was going on. So they did that. CRA sponsorship signs installed at Clifford Arena. New batteries have been put in the floor scrubber in Palmerston. Replaced fan in change room of number 5 change room in Clifford. New belt spark plugs put in the Olympia in Clifford, and the board brush was repaired. The Olympia in Harrison has had new water sight glass installed. The tire wash pump was replaced and headlights repaired. And that's it. Another successful term with Parks. Thanks. And I need a motion to receive this report and approve it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
That was a question. So there's this one, you did a great job of going through the whole thing, but there's a question just begs to be asked.
What is it?
Your new business. Tell us in 10 words or less what that means.
Oh, no, but I can tell you, I'm sorry I missed that. That's probably one of the most important things we asked.
I thought you were glossing it over. That's why I thought.
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to bring public. There is quite a concern. We this year, for those who don't know, we decided to go and contract out our 2 booths, Harrison and Palmerston, into a private group. And there's concern that the booths are only being open when it's convenient for the owner.
I see, okay.
Yeah, and so that was there's hockey practices, there have little hockey games, there's all kinds of events that isn't broom ball, they're certainly not open for. So our staff are hoping to talk to them. If things don't work out for the end of the year, then we're going to have to reconsider what we do with that concession. That was probably brought. I would say all the PrAC members had some concerns of some sort. So our staff are going to look into it. Hopefully we can motivate that person to open the booth.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up. Sorry I missed that.
And I will make that motion. If you're looking for somebody still.
And Deputy Mayor Turton. All in favor?
Thanks, Ron. All right, I guess I still have this one, next one. Building assistant. Oh, Michelle, that's you. Easement on Laura Street.
She's a busy girl tonight.
So it's kind of old news, yeah.
Oh,
for everybody.
according to the deputy mayor.
So, yes.
But we want to listen to your report.
Yeah, the majority of council may remember back in 2018 that you already passed the consent, and so did Land Division approve. But for the benefit of the two new members of council who may not remember, we have creating approximately just over a 13-foot easement on the property known as 101 Elora Street North, which also abuts what is known as W.C. Smith, so that they can both connect to the sewer line. The only thing that we are really wanting to make sure that we add in here is that they provide us with the as-built design to make sure that we know the exact location and to make sure that the easement is not on the pre-existing septic. Otherwise, all conditions remain
You have a
in place.
question?
I asked my questions this afternoon.
Oh, good, okay. You
I'm
want to
good.
move it?
Thank you.
Can I have somebody move it?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Jeff, all in favor?
Thank you.
And now we're up to the building chief official, this January report.
Yes. So as I alluded to last month, and as you've seen in my summary, things have started off extremely strong this year. We issued 12 permits worth $2.6 million, which is substantially higher than normal. We did 8 permits last year worth touch under $400,000. We issued permits for 4 new residential dwelling units. We got the fourplex up in Clifford that you all are familiar with, and then 3 out in the country and 1 in Harrison here. Another highlight for this month, we did issue a permit for the renovation of one of our vacant commercial buildings in Palmerston. So that one's kind of nice, that it'll get fixed up and occupied. The pictures that I provided there, the one on the left, our building officials chapter identified that there was a training gap for building departments. So our chapter actually established and created a building department admin course. So that was the pilot that we did over in the Lions Club for that. The picture on the right was actually kind of a fun one. It's one of our parochial schools in town, or in Minto here. They did a project where they designed an addition onto a house.
Oh,
and the
cool.
teacher actually called me up wanting me to do a plans review on it. So we did. I didn't do it. Amanda did it, actually.
Yeah, good.
And then I issued a building permit for it. So
I just wondered what that picture was. I couldn't figure out how that
yeah,
worked out
that's
with the
bright
builders.
yellow
So one and-
permits. I didn't laminate them.
Oh.
But yeah, no, it was fun. Definitely a different dynamic than public schools for sure.
Nice.
That's
So
very cool.
Mhm.
I hope they enjoyed it as much as I did.
I'm sure they did.
So our 10-year average for permit numbers is 5. So as I mentioned before, we're sitting at 12. That picture on the right is that fourplex up in Clifford with their ICF foundation. And then our 10-year average for construction value is almost 500,000, and yeah, we hit the 2.6. So I almost had to actually rotate the page the other way just because that bar graph was getting so high, almost popped off. I'm just kidding. And then the picture on the right is actually some plumbing in a basement in a semi that's under construction in Clifford as well on the former ball field lands. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Questions? Ron?
Can you tell us what commercial building in Palmerston, is that available for public?
I don't believe it is
Okay.
public. I know they haven't started actively working on it yet, so you probably wouldn't.
There's not too many places left on Main Street.
There isn't. So
I can kind of guess. Okay, thanks.
Elimination.
Ron, I'm surprised you don't know.
I do. But
Well,
I thought it was time to make it public.
Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah.
Apparently not.
Sorry, Jude.
Thank you. I just have can you clarify your opening statement there? 12 permits were issued, resulting in $2.6 million in construction value.
Yep.
Versus the 8 permits. So what does the creating 8 new residential units refer to? The 2019 or the 2020?
So that actually, should be the 2020. We didn't issue any residential permits last year. This year we did 4 single-family dwellings and then the fourplex in January of 2020.
Oh, and then there were 4 other permits for other things. I
Correct.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
That gets you 8
Just trying to do the
units.
math.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Got it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's good math now.
Did you want to move that?
I would love to move that, sure.
Counselor Dirksen, Counselor Elliott, all in favor?
Thank you.
Good job, keep it up.
Silly tonight. What is this?
Turn it over to Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. We have two items on the Treasury account tonight. First one being the approval of the accounts, and I'd like to welcome our treasurer, Mr. Gordon Duff. So if you wouldn't mind taking us through this, Gord?
All right. Thanks, Chair Turton. So I guess related to Terry's report, some of our large admin expenditures, I guess, are kind of good news because we just paid the development charges and the net supplemental taxes to the county and the school boards. So that was $340,000.
We made for them.
Yeah, all for
And collected it.
19 items. Yeah, so we did that. We also have quite a few of our computer services and software renewals, about $31,000, and they all came in January as well, too. And then because it's still winter, we have about $31,000 of salt and snow removal and highway maintenance and all that kind of thing. And we also bought kind of our vehicle replacement costs using kind of hand-me-downs and that. We bought a 2010 grader for $147,000, and about another $6,300 in drainage too. And at the Lions Den, we got a better back door, and so those are the major highlights.
Questions for our treasurer? Hearing none, the recommendation is that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's report dated February 10th regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for February 2020. Can I have a mover? Mayor Bridge, seconder. Councillor Elliott, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. The second item on the agenda is to do with the Ontario Trillium Foundation collaborative agreement. Gord.
Yes. So this
Please.
one's a little more complex to explain, but if you cast your minds back, I guess it's 6 years ago, the mayor and I
Yep.
and another person attended the first symposium of the Supporting Performing Arts in Rural Communities group. And throughout these 6 years, I've kind of stayed in touch and attended their events. And Minto also hosted a major event in October of 2018 and some other workshops besides. So this group is provincial, and being a nonprofit group, fundraising and grant renewals is a real challenge. So if any of you have worked on Trillium grants in the last few years, it's a totally different organization than it was 5 years ago, say. So even though this is a provincial organization, they're not qualifying for overall provincial funding. So Trillium has directed them to go back to a previous model that they had and establish community hubs. And so Spark right now is housed out of Halliburton, and because of our previous success with running workshops and just being a cultural destination, they've identified Minto as one of the proposed hubs. So unfortunately, due to the weather, the Trillium Foundation had to cancel a workshop from about 10 days ago, and we had it last Thursday. So this is going to be a joint venture between the Minto Arts Council as the lead organization, the Grey Wellington Theatre Guild, the Town of Minto through the Culture Roundtable, and this provincial Spark organization. So we're under a bit of a tight timeline. The grants are due on February 26th, and these collaborative agreements have to be signed by all the parties, being Mayor and the clerk in this case. And the collaborative agreement is still under development, but I'll have it done by the end of the week. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions or
Questions for Gord? Hearing none, the recommendation is that the Council of the Town of Minto authorizes the mayor and the acting clerk to sign the Ontario Trillium Foundation collaborative agreement. And I have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Anderson, Councillor Dirksen. All in favor? Against? That's carried. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
I'll hand the chair back to our mayor.
And we're going to do other business as items, additional items. Did you have one?
Yes, I
Nadia?
do, yeah.
And who else had one? Councilor McKenzie.
So you want to go first?
Mark, you want to go first? You were on first.
You wish. Okay, just to back up a bit on this zoning and official plan, there's a clause in here that says they try to strive, or at least for a minimum of 25% in new housing units that will be affordable. I have never seen that. When does that kick in for us? When we allow residential and developments? And I guess the definition of affordable is different to a lot of people. But when do we see that starting here so we don't, not everybody that comes to this town can afford the new units that are being built?
No.
So how do we get around that? It's even spelled out in there that we're supposed to follow this plan, and when does that kick in for us?
Well, now the planner's not here. Maybe when they, but I could try to answer that. But the official plan, and if you look at a lot of our new subdivision agreements, like you can see, we actually do follow most of that. Kerry's even gone. Maybe I'll have to get back to you on that one, Mark.
Yeah, please, because
but I could get the technical side. I kind of know, but I'm not sure where the 25 is, and we're under most of right now. Minto doesn't meet the standard that our Wellington County one is. So that's so every time we do one of these additional units, it helps us get there. I don't know where we are exactly, what percentages are, but I think that we're not quite there. Michelle, do you have? No, I'll have to get back to you on that one. Sorry. Which, if you'd asked that, Linda was right here. We could have asked her.
Well, it was on a different subject then.
Well, I know.
It's more of a
I know,
general
but we can get
question,
Linda.
and I just wondered, it's a very important.
Yeah, well, we can get Linda to do that. I mean,
to have these units here, and I don't ever see them, or raise them blind.
We've been getting some.
Where?
Well, Clifford one, there's a 4-unit going into Clifford that's rental. Are you talking about?
But okay, that's one maybe in 20 years.
And
but it's the definition is probably different for everyone. Like I said, for affordable, but
well,
if we're supposed to do that, we need
as
our
I pointed out
people staying here.
Under our study that we did at the Wellington County, for us to be what we call attainable housing, or if you want to call it affordable. Affordable kind of lends the fact that you're going to support it. But attainable housing, you have to make about $84,000 in overall family revenue to buy something in the 350 range. We don't get a lot of buildings being built at 350, to be honest with you. And I think we're trying to do on our new subdivisions. Good example is coming forward in the next Right Haven Homes one. There's a section of that subdivision that's going to hopefully be stacked townhouses and that type of thing, where we can actually get more units on the site, so we maybe lower the cost down. Those are all things we work towards, but I, yeah. So I think that's something this council's always looked at.
Right.
And we, what we've got to get there. We're not alone on this. Every time I have a meeting with a minister, every community has the same problem. They like different levels of it. Like if you're in Toronto, it's $1 million is your average house. Well, how many people can afford $1 million? So their attainable housing is different, but it's the same whether it comes to here at 350. We're not building 350 houses, so we have to get multi-residential. Like we have, if you look in Palmerston, with we have a lot of senior units that are level, like the rentals mostly, which we need too. But yeah, row housing is what we have to look at. We'll have to look at different types of housing. We can't all be single-family dwellings anymore. It's just not going to work.
Well, that was my question.
Well, we're working
losing
towards
people.
Yep.
Moving away because there isn't.
Listen. You know what? I mean, this is what frustrates me when we get a situation like we have, where our old when we did the public school, and we had a situation there where somebody took us to OMB, delayed the situation. Now we have quality homes in there doing but they're condos. So, I mean, I understand that, but we only can do so much. Like, we have to get, and I don't blame a developer not wanting to make a profit. They have to make a profit as well.
They do.
So, I mean, we can have this debate. If you want a report on it, I can maybe get a report the next time Mark? 'Cause
Well, if there's
next
a-
time,
yeah.
well, next time we have the planner here, I will make sure that she can give us a report on
We'll
it.
pose that question because there's guidelines to follow, and I don't think.
Well, we try to follow the guidelines. And I think in all our new subdivisions, they're closer to the guidelines,
Yeah,
for sure.
well, hopefully it improves.
So,
I think, Mark, you can't, the problem is we have to have developers that want to or can, and they gotta find the property cheap enough so they can make it to be under that 25%. And that's the difficult part. It's not us that we can go tell them what to do and what to build, you know?
Well,
I don't know how else we could approach, you know?
We own land, but we don't own land in most cases.
we have control of permits, though. And if it says in there they're supposed to have, not each one, but our municipality has at least 25% in development in affordable housing, it'd be nice to see that.
Well, I don't think we have the control you think we have. But I'll let the planner answer that. I won't answer
Yeah,
that.
okay, well, another day.
Another day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, I was just gonna say, was it 10 years ago? Like, we had 10 or 12 trailers here in town that were fairly reasonable to own, and the town owned that land. I mean, we likely, and I don't know how you get creative on stuff like this, because I do agree with our mayor. It's really difficult to find a developer that is willing to take something like this on, and or he needs to make 20% likely. But I mean, we've not replaced. We have a trailer park in Palmerston, and it's again, it's one of those situations where it's reasonable, a reasonable priced place to live. And I mean, again, I think I've talked to different people in other municipalities that people are really looking for ways to be creative. So if there's something that you're thinking, Mark, I know we've had discussions about it. If we have the land, yeah.
So on that, Mark, too, when we had Weston did the housing study for Wellington County, we've now struck a committee. Andy Lennox is on it from up our area, and talking about different pilots that we could do. There's been a lot of talk about maybe doing land leases again, which is sort of what Deputy Mayor Turton's talking about with the trailer parks. They're land leases.
Mhm.
So in other words, if we had land, which we don't, we'd have to go out and purchase it somehow. But if we had land that we could then develop with a land lease situation where they would only have to pay for the house, but then there's a lot of complications as how do people want to do that, because if I put equity in my house, how much equity I get back out. So if you create it for once, you want to make sure that that land lease allows it to continue on. So there's a lot of interesting things that are out there that we're trying to come up with. But that would take maybe $100,000 off the price of a house because the land would be just leased, right? And so we got a couple things. We have another project we're looking at the county with continuum of care, which again, it's very complicated. When you get into these things, it's very complicated, but nobody's got the solution out there yet. I wish we did have it, but it's not like nobody's trying, and I think we'll keep on that. And that's a recommendation for us to try to get to. But, you know, what's attainable housing now? As I said, it's $350 an attainable house. Well, that you have to earn $84,000. I don't know how many. Sometimes if you won't be earning that. So maybe something like what Deputy Mayor is saying. If you can find another trailer park, like you got a good example of that in Pike Lake, Fairway Estates. That's what that is. That's a land trust lease. So Pike Lake owns the land, and they pay a rent to Pike Lake, and that pays their taxes and everything else. And those houses they sell now. They don't have a stipulation if they can resell whatever they're at, and I forget what they're at now, but they're getting up to 300 some of those now without the land. So it's tough.
Well, our little world in Minto needs some affordable housing, and we've all been screaming that. And hopefully it's something.
Well, we'll keep
we have a
everybody
breakthrough
posted.
sometime soon.
Well, if you have an answer, let me know. It's not like we're not working on it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bridge. I just wanted to make mention about a bonspiel that we were at.
Yes, how'd you do in that,
We
David?
did extremely well. We had Quinn, Chris, Cam, and myself. We were in Mount Forest. It was the first annual Andy Lennox, the mayor's curling bonspiel, and it was a lot of fun. There was 16 teams, and the community really was engaged. There was a lot of nice things, and we had a great day.
Did you bring the trophy home?
So there was no trophy.
You were in first place.
So it was,
So you're not even letting us know what you did?
no, it was one of those things that everybody got a prize.
Oh.
So thank you.
Well, I know they had a stacked team at Arthur.
Yeah, they
win?
did. They won the first game.
Yeah.
So Mandy Hansen was one of the main people that was organizing it, and they did a great job.
Yeah,
So
I was talking to Mayor Lennox today, actually, at County Council, and we were very pleased, and they raised really good funds for the town, wherever they were doing it for. I can't remember.
it was in Arthur, and they have a nice curling club down there. It is really nice.
Lost a lot of games there. I won some. Anyways, anybody else? No, just me? Okay. I've got a couple things. We had Darren's Day on Monday. It was amazing, and we had great weather and good people. A lot of people turned out. The highlight, of course, was the fire truck pole, and we won again. We beat the OPP again, crushed them. I did do the timing on it, so but I was cheering for both teams because I have sort of two hats there. But our guys did really well.
Wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. It was 4 seconds off. We did a new record at 17.6 seconds, although we change the route every year, so there's really no idea that what it's all about. Just about hockey, I was really excited. Not only the 81s are doing really well, the Pee-wees have got into the next round. They're into the semis. And the Bantams just won last night in Palmerston. They're in the semis. And the juveniles are in the semis as well. So the arenas are going to be busy. And that's great news. And I was able to go to the Minto Pride Family Day at the library with, I was looking after his grandparenting. So I had Evie, so a 5-year-old, and it was great to have 3 hours that she just went in there and did the games and all the stuff, ate a lot of food. And it's great to have her there with me, and great bunch of people out, so that was good. Other than that, I think that's all I have.
Just one quick.
Yes.
Broomball.
Yeah,
Terminators are going to the Nationals again this year.
Oh, good.
Hopefully they won the Canadians, so hopefully they can bring it back.
Where's that? Is that girls?
Yeah, I think it's in Ottawa.
Is that the girls?
Yes.
Girls, good.
Girls junior team.
Yeah. And we did get a qualifier, too, for the Marlins for the summer.
Summer, yep.
And what, David, is it?
I'm not sure.
U18 or?
It'll be midget, likely.
Midget, yeah. And so that'll be, the Ball Dimes will be busy in Palmerston for that in July. Good. All right. Do I have a motion to go right up? Under all your paperwork here?
Yeah, right there.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Anderson, second by Councilor Elliott. The Committee of the Whole convenes the regular council meeting. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Dirksen, second by Councilor McKenzie. The Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Gunston, the bylaw number 20-2011 to establish the development charges for the Town of Minto be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed from Council and seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Dirksen, the bylaw number 20-2012 to amend the assessment schedule based on the actual cost incurred for constructing municipal drain 60 be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed from Council and seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor McKenzie, second by Councilor Anderson, the bylaw number 20-2013 to rezone 73 Lawrence Street West, Harrison from R1C FF2 low-density residential zone to R2 FF2 medium-density residential zone be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed in open council and seal the corporation. All in favor?
Question time?
Yes, question, yes, one.
So I know there were a bunch of items that were noted there. Do we feel that we've answered all of those questions?
Thought we did.
Is it, can we, so, because I know one of the concerns was a site-specific provision. Are we wasting too much time? Like, it's gonna come back next council anyways. Can we put on there that it's for semi-detached?
Mhm.
And put that provision on there?
Well,
But I know, we want to get building in.
yeah, I know they want to get building, and that, so it's
I
too-
know, it's very,
Yeah, I haven't got a concern with it, because I think this is, somebody's gonna build right away, and that's what we were told, and I don't think I'm worrying about somebody making. And not only that, I tried to ask that question to Linda, if per chance it doesn't go that way, they, to build the 4 units on it, there would have to be a lot more discussion as to how they're going to get those on that lot. Because again, you'd have to have something down the side. You couldn't have necessarily, you know,
Does it come back to us, though?
well,
Once it's
yeah, for
rezoned,
site,
it's
for
rezoned,
site,
right?
we'd have, same way we did in Clifford, we ended up, remember, putting
Didn't have to do
walls
a lot
up
line.
and other things that we had to do to allow it to, yeah, it comes back to look at. But again, I'm not concerned about it, because I think this developer wants to get this, and I think to be better off to get the semi on right now and get it done with, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Chris, you're not gonna slip in a fourplex, are you? I'm not doing it. But you know about it.
The plans are in, the actual drawings are here, and everything's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's ready to issue the building permit, right?
Yeah, all the work that he's done, it's not cheap. Okay, so the distance that he's went right now, it's cost him a few dollars.
The change is not happening.
yep, okay. Okay.
Make sure. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, can I call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the bylaw number 2020-14 to confirm actions of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held February 18th, 2020, be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed in open council, seal of the corporation. All in favor?
Sorry, that is my fault. That is incorrect.
That's incorrect?
Yes, sorry. It's this one here.
Yep.
Oh. Have I got it here?
I'll have to redo it.
All right.
If you could just read this one.
I can read that one.
Sorry.
Sure. Which one is it?
Right here. The bylaw
Okay.
2020-14.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the bylaw number 2020-14 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a collaborative agreement between the town of Minto, Gray, Wellington, Gray, Wellington, Theatre Guild, and Arts Council be introduced and read first, second, and third time, passed on council, seal of the corporation. All in favor?
That?
Yep. Okay. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott, the bylaw number 2020-15 to confirm actions of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held February 18th, 2020, be introduced and read first, second, and third time, passed on open to council, seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor McKenzie, the Council of the Town of Minto adjourned to meet again with the call of the mayor. All in favor? Thanks, everybody, for a good meeting.